Hey guys, so today we're gonna look through some PSA grades I got. I think this is like 60 something cards. You see, it's pretty much a full case. Get these Japanese Pokemon Center boxes out of the way. Not a complete surprise for me. I did browse through these on the app to see what scores I got, so I know a lot of them. Full disclosure, a lot of these are kind of a personal collection from my wife that she just wanted to get them graded, like stuff she had as a kid. So they weren't in perfect condition. So a lot of these aren't going to be like high value slabs. Some are, some aren't. But just kind of wanted to get them graded in slabs just because of the nostalgia of it. I'm going to just start pulling a few out here. All right. Let's just start flipping through them, see what we got. A Magikarp. See, that was one that actually got a decent one. That was one out of her little binder from when she was a kid. Little bit of value on this one. In a 9. So it's a base 2 Magikarp. Pretty cool card. Let's move along. There's one that was not in great condition. Actually, I don't think it was bad. It was a base set 2 Squirtle. And the corners weren't great. Yeah, it was the corners on that one. The bottom 2 corners were a little white. I don't know why that got it a 6. Because the front was fine and there were really no scratches or anything. So, honestly, I am completely confused with PSA's grades on Vintage half the time. Because I can send in some... That one's got a little white on the side, too. So, maybe. I think... I was guessing a 7 or an 8 for that one. All right, next card up. It's a Poliwhirl, and this was just regular base set Poliwhirl. Nothing crazy. Probably worth just over the grading cost on a lot of these. I just kind of wanted to see how they would grade really good condition binder cap vintage that just had slight whitening from sitting in a binder and sometimes corners. And honestly, I don't get it a lot, really. I don't get how they do it, but there we go. A little whitening on the edge. But I can send in modern cards with whitening on the edge like that, and sometimes the whitening on the corners, and they'll get 8s and 9s. But when you send in vintage, they don't. Anyway, I'm not a huge fan of PSA, if you haven't noticed, but not a lot of choices if you want value these days. All right, next up, Eevee from Team Rocket. This one got a 7, so that's cool. Most of these in this set here are from her personal collection. Out of a little plastic binder. If it was a better binder, it probably would have had better scores, but this is kind of another one that I don't fully understand because all I see on that one is a tiny little white speck on the corner down there. It's a little off center. I think it's a little right heavy, so I guess. Next one, base set 2 Wartortle. Oh, another thing, like I have some modern cards in here, and they got better grades in worse condition, I believe. That one was off center in the back and the front, so I guess a 7 is understandable. A little bit of whitening on the side. That one kind of makes sense, I think. All right, next up, a Meowth from Jungle. Also a 6. It seems like all of the vintage cards got a 6, except for a few, regardless of condition. Oh, no, that's on the thing. I think it had a white speck, but that is on the guard. And that was the issues with these mostly, the tiny little bit of white in the corners. And this one had maybe a couple specks on the bottom. In the corners up there, but it's still, I don't think it's a 6 just from tiny little white specks on the corners when the front's all looked exceptional. So these were opened and put in a binder for 15 20 years, whatever. So yeah, a lot of the vintage grades just don't make sense. I wish they would give you subgrades. I'm probably going to start using a company that does subgrades. Arcanine, a 7. Another one. So I only picked out the best. There were a lot of cards in these binders. I only picked out the best conditions to grade. And a lot of them had those little white specks in the corners. other than that, I don't know. The card looks great, but sure, 7. We'll see if the grades go up when I get to the non-vintage stuff. Well, they do. Look, Mega Gardevoir EX in a 10. And funny thing about this one is it was not perfectly centered. I, for no reason, thought this card would have gotten a 10. If you look how right heavy this card is, like, it's way far away from 45-55. Very right heavy. And it's a 10. So there you go, Modern getting better scores. A Shuckle in a 9. This one was also right heavy and bottom heavy, which is why it did not get a 10. Other than that, it's perfect. I think the Gardevoir was worse though, which doesn't make sense. Lily's Determination in a 10. I think this one was fine. I thought this one was going to get a 10. It's right around the 45-55 centering and no issues, so makes sense. If that one didn't get a 10, I was probably going to be a little annoyed because there's nothing wrong with that card. Bulbasaur Illustration Rare in a 10. Nothing wrong with this one either. It was a little right heavy on the centering. Actually, it's a lot right heavy on the centering. It probably makes it look worse on the camera if I do it this way. Still heavier on this side. I thought that was probably going to be a 9, but it's a 10. I guess whoever did the modern cards was in a better mood that day. Here's another Jungle Eevee. But you go back to the vintage and look, 6. Even though this one is perfectly centered. I don't know if you can see it. There's a tiny little white speck up top there. And same with the others, whitening on the corner. Bottom corners, it's really just the bottom corners. That one's got a little bit on the top. But still, I don't think it was a 6. I think it was a 7 or 8. I don't know if they're trying to keep the pop low on high-graded vintage, even though they're not expensive cards. These are just like basic. Here's another one, Pikachu. A little right, top heavy on the center. No, top's fine. A little right heavy on the centering. Sure, front looks fine. Back actually looks fine too, except for the corners. So I guess the corners is 3 points off of a grade. I don't know. Next one. Oh, was that another Jungle Eevee? Yeah, another Jungle Eevee. Also in a 6. And so it looks like they just take the vintage cards and put 6s on them. I don't get it. I kind of want to crack some of these and send them to another company. Hard to get them graded right now. I'm not waiting for CGC, so I'll probably send them to PCG and see how they do because tag does, okay, off back centering was off, but still, I don't think there was anything wrong with those cards other than centering and tiny corner issues. Yeah, PCG has super fast turnaround times right now, and there is a modern card in a 9. Not sure what this one is. Hard to tell the centering on these, so it's probably something with the centering on the Blaziken. We have a Professor Oak. I guess if it's a trainer card, it gets a 9, huh? Base set Professor Oak. See if this one had the whitening, and it also had the whitening on the corners. Kind of hard to see in the camera, but yeah, like right there on the top, there's some whitening there. So pretty much same issues as the others, but 3 grades higher. Charmeleon. Now this one got an 8, the base set Charmeleon. I wonder if it had corner whitening. It does, look. Same as the others. Corner whitening. Probably worse than the Eevees. And it even had whitening on the edge here, down the side. Whitening here, whitening here, whitening here. I think this one was definitely worse than the Eevees, but it got an 8, and the Eevees got a 6. Again, couldn't tell you why. All right, Absol. This card is pretty much perfect, and it got a 10. So, pretty straightforward there. Perfect centering. Litleo, another one. Perfect centering. No issues whatsoever. Pack fresh. And it's a 10. Not bad. At least I did not get screwed on some of the modern perfect cards. This one I thought was perfect, but apparently not. It got a 9. Don't see any issues with that one whatsoever. Maybe slightly right heavy, but I'm not sure. That was the Mega Evolution stamped one. Pikachu Pokemon Day. I thought this one was fine. I thought it was in perfect condition, but maybe not. Maybe it's that little white speck there on the corner. I'm not sure. But it's got an 8. I was hoping to get a 10 in one of those. Wigglytuff from Jungle, a 5.5. Very interesting score. Nothing wrong with the front of that one. It did have some whitening up top there. It also had the corner issues that some of the other ones had on the bottom corners. But it also had a little bit on the top corner. So I guess that's the other half of a point they took off for that one. Kind of rare to get half scores sometimes, but it happens. All right. 4. This is funny because I don't think this is an inverted back. But let's see. Oh, it's got a dent. That's why I get a 4. Okay. 4 is fine on this one. I get it. The hollow's scratched. It's got a dent. It kind of damaged because you can see it here too. So understandable. But what I don't get, Raichu hollow inverted back. I don't think it's an inverted back. Maybe I put it in as an inverted back accidentally. I figured during the research phase where it's set for a month was when they would have figured that out. But yeah, Raichu hollow inverted back in a 4 without an inverted back. I'm not sure what to do about that one. If you know, let me know. It's going to be hard to sell a card that's marked wrong. Right on in a 5, first edition. Another one of those cards out of the binder. That one has a good bit of edge whitening. If I would have sent in a modern card with that amount of edge whitening, it probably would have got a 6 or a 7. Yeah, just kind of how they work with the vintage. Garchomp, 8. It is off center. Couple little specks on the corners, so yeah, whatever. Reshiram, ends Reshiram, Journey Together stamped. Think this one was perfect, but it's off center, so that's why it's not a 10. It's a 9 because it's off center. I didn't pre-grade very well on these. My other submissions I did, so we will see how they go. This was more of a send a bunch of stuff in. A 7. Okay, I thought that one was pretty well centered in pretty good condition as well. Urine. That's odd. I don't see anything wrong with it either. There's you know, the little white cut marks. Yeah, that one doesn't make sense. Maybe there is something I did not notice. Trying to see if I can see anything. But it looks fine. Okay, interesting. A Charmeleon from base set. Look, it didn't get a 6. It got a 7. So if I have it pretty much near perfect on base set, it gets a 7 because this one doesn't have the whitening on the corners other than the tiny little cut marks. The surface is really clean. This was one I thought like should have gotten a 9 or a 10 because there was nothing wrong with this card. I looked over this one. I had a bunch of Charmanders. I found the nicest one we had. Sent it in. I thought it was perfect. I guess a 6 is a 9 and a 7 is a 10 if you send in vintage stuff. Primeape, 8. A little better on the Jungle Primeape. Funny thing on this one, you saw how the Charmander got a 7. The Primeape does have whitening on the corners. on that corner, and there's also some white spots on the border. There was a little bit over here somewhere, I think, but yeah, higher grade than the Charmander in worse condition. In my opinion, my non-professional grading opinion, this Meowth got a 9. I think it's because he's off center. Yeah, he's right heavy. Nothing wrong with him. But he's a 9 because he is right heavy. That's okay. Should have pre-graded him a little better. This Charmander also got a 7. This one, however, was very, very bottom heavy compared to the other one that was centered okay. It was bottom heavy, and it had the whitening in the corners a little bit where the other one did not, but got the same grade. So interesting there. Meowth. Rocket and an 8. He looks fine. Yeah, there is a little white. No, that's on the case. Yeah, I don't know. Looks good to me. These white spots are on the case from the packing material, but yeah, these were like cards just from grading modern cards that I thought should have been 9s and 10s, but they don't like to grade vintage in 9s and 10s, so I get an 8. Eakins, a 7. Another one that is centered perfectly. And didn't see any issues on the front. I didn't see any issues on the back. Even the corners on that one are good, except for that little bit of cut mark there. Yeah, it looks a 9 or a 10 to me compared to how they grade modern cards, but they even got some fuzz in the case. Look at that. There's like a hair in there. Interesting. But it's a 7 for some reason. And here's a Jigglypuff and a 6. It's actually centered pretty well. Didn't see any issues on the front of this one. The back had a little bit of whitening on the corners. And it's a 6. It's just they don't like grading my vintage cards I send in well. Umbreon, I thought this one was fine, but he was a little right heavy. So I think he is a 9 because of centering. Yeah. I mean, most of the modern ones make sense, I think. The vintage does not make sense. Psyduck in a 6. Every vintage card I have is a 6. Every single one. Some are 7s, some are 8s. I got 1 9. And these were all like, I don't know. I don't know why they're 6s. It doesn't make sense to me. Couple little white specks on the bottom, same place. PSA does not make sense to me grading vintage cards from Fossil Jungle Base set. I don't get the 6s. I don't get some of the 5s. I don't get the 7s. It's just, it doesn't make sense. I've seen 9s and 10s in worse condition than these. This Wartortle is a 7. Dark Wartortle, a 7. Sure, I guess. I don't see any issues with it. Looks perfect to me. Meowth and an 8. Not sure why. Off center looks just like the other one. Man, I wish they would give you subgrades or tell you why it got a lower score. Not getting above a 7 on most of these vintage. This is a Fossil. This was another one, looked fine. No scratching. Whitening in the corners, same issues. Worse than the ones that got a 6. Yeah, definitely worse back than the ones that got the 6. And I got a 7. Let's see, I bet the next vintage card I pull is going to be a 6. No, it's an 8. Okay, base set 2. It's a little newer, so they just gave it... They gave it 2 extra points because it's not base set. Yeah, that Squirtle's fine, too. He's just little white cut marks in the corner, but sure, an 8, not going above that. A Rapidash and a 10. Modern card. Gets a 10. Nothing wrong with that one. Oh, I got a Meowth and a 10. Okay. That one's pretty perfect, too. there's just like a vintage 2-point lowering. Umbreon in a 9, probably centering. Looks a little right heavy. Other than that, I think he's fine.
That's what I found.
Yep, Sirius talking to me. Got a Deerling in a 7. I don't know why he's a 7. That was a little weird because he's centered okay. There must be an issue I missed on him. Not sure what it was. And then we have a Squirtle in a 5. Yeah. Had a phone call on my watch. Sorry about that. Yeah, he had some edge whitening up top too. So that's why he got a 5 instead of a 6, instead of the normal 6. Bulbasaur, illustration rare. Another 10 Bulbasaur. That makes 2 of those. Celebi in a 9. Probably centering issues. No, centering looks fine. There must have been something else on him. Back looks fine. Not sure. It's probably one of those I can resubmit and get a 10. Hey, look, an 8 in a base set. This one must be perfect. same whitening on the corners. But 8, probably the highest I got on any of the vintage. All right, let's go through the last 3 real quick. It's been a long video. The Galarian Moltres got an 8. I noticed that. I saw that one online. I'm not sure why. I think it was here. I don't know if you can see it. There's a tiny bit of white there. I'm guessing that's where it came from because it looks pretty well centered, but yeah, to be expected. Stamped Umbreon, got a 9, pretty straightforward. Had an issue somewhere. This Raging Bolt got an 8. I think he's off centered a little bit, but yeah, that's it. So anyway, I think I sent some stuff to PCG. The grading company that's been around a while, but got bought by Rudy from Alpha Investments. I'm gonna have some cards back from them soon. I hear the slabs are really nice, so I'll check them out and I'll let you know. We'll do a video when they get here. I have a kind of an 11 card submission going out, and then another big like 70 card submission coming from them. So we'll make a video then. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. And if you've had the same kind of experience, and see you later. Bye.